Classic Winchester ammo test, 357 Magnum and 10 millimeter. What I have today is some 10 millimeter Silvertip and some 357 Magnum. It is Ranger SXT, which is also known as the Black Talon bullet. Kind of repackaged in the early 90s to make it less lethal looking and not call it Black Talon anymore. That's basically what that 357 is. So I looked at the information on these boxes, and if I'm looking right, I believe that they're both from 1992. Just looking at the UPC, and it says something like 2892. I could be wrong about that, but just judging by looking at it, that's probably about right. Now, this box of ammo was actually gifted to me by one of my Patreons, Dan, about 2 years ago. So thank you for that. I haven't got around to testing it because I've been wanting to get a 10 millimeter pistol to test it more adequately through. That brings me to the next point here. This is not a 10 millimeter pistol. This is a Glock 41 and 45 ACP. It is a very light pistol. It's like 26 ounces. Even plus P45 will jam this thing up. That's just the name of the game with this thing, and I can't really do anything about it. So it's probably going to jam quite a bit, but because it's a 5.3 inch barrel, it gives me really good ballistic information. It is valid information. So I'm going to use that to test the 10 millimeter, and then my 4-inch barrel Smith & Wesson 686 to test the 357 Magnum. And another thing I'm going to do here, this is a 175 grain Silvertip here. I'm going to test it versus modern 175 grain Silvertip. So there's a little bit of a difference here in the construction of this ammunition. Some people say that some of the older Silvertips had an aluminum jacket. I don't know if this is within the time frame to have that or not, but there's definitely a difference what I can see in its quality. It looks a lot different, like the older Silvertip might be better quality than the modern Silvertip, but they're both 175 grain. I believe they're rated at the same velocity, so we'll see if there's a difference there. We'll see if 30 years, sitting for 30 years is going to change the velocity or anything like that. So I'm going to go through the Chronograph, see what kind of velocity I get at the same time with these. And then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test. And what I do is a plain clear ballistics shot, just plain clear ballistics into clear ballistics, and no denim and oil or anything like that, to kind of get our best case scenario, see the potential of these rounds. And then I do my more difficult 4 layers of denim, 3 inches of clear ballistics to represent a pectoral muscle, 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard to represent hitting ribs or sternum, and to more clear ballistics. And then I think I'll shoot up my steel target here, but I don't think I'm going to fire that many rounds, especially with the classic ammo. Because that 357, I paid about $10 a round for that, so I don't want to be plinking with it. But we'll see what we get when we shoot a couple rounds at that steel. So let's get started with this test. All right, I'm about 5 yards from the target. First up, we're going to try our 10 millimeter. By the way, our 357 mag is a 180 grain, our 10 millimeter. Both the old and the new is 175 grain. So the first 2 rounds here are going to be our modern 10 millimeter Silvertip, and then the 2 after that are going to be our classic, 31-year-old Silvertip. So here's 2 rounds here of our modern Silvertips, 10 millimeter, 1183, 1173. Now these 2 are going to be our classic old ammo. Let's see what these give us. 1228, 1227, consistent with those 2 rounds, and just a little bit hotter than our modern loading of that. Interesting. Now with this 357 mag, because they're $10 a round, I'm going to try to just get 1 round of a reading through our chronograph. So let's see what this gives us. 1139, not super fast, but a 180 grain bullet, so that's going to pack a punch. So let's hit our ballistic gel block with these and kind of see what we get with our ballistic performance. All right, first up, I'm going to run our modern 10 millimeter round into plain clear ballistics, and right after that, I'm going to run our 30-year-old round. So here's our modern round. There's our classic round. Now let me try the 357. All right, 357 mag. Let's go take a look. All right, no surprise there with our 357 mag. All these did really good damage, but with our 357, obviously, you know, it's a lot of sectional density, 180 grain for only a 35 caliber bullet, 36 caliber. And we got some expansion, looks pretty good. We're at a penetration of about 21 inches. Now with our Silvertip here, we do see some difference here with our classic versus our modern ones. So our modern one, it still did good. We're looking at about 17 inches total penetration. But when we look at our damage path with our classic round up here, we actually have a penetration of about 15 inches. So that would, you know, that makes some sense because we have a little bit more power behind that. So it's going to open up that hollow point probably just a little bit bigger. So there's definitely some differences there, but both of these did well. Our 357 definitely over penetrated, but you know, that's kind of what you would expect, but it's not like extreme over penetration. It's just over penetration based on the fact that its sectional density is so high. So this would kind of be a good woods round or possibly personal defense round all in one round, because we're still going to open up that hollow point, but yet it still has a lot of good penetration. So now let's go through our denim and our medium density fiberboard to see if there's a difference. Modern 10 millimeter through our denim and MDF. Now let's try our classic round. All right, classic 10 millimeter Silvertip. All right, 357 now. 357 mag. We'll take a look. Bullet scooted out the side, so I'm gonna have to do one more here. Now let's go take a look. So definitely some interesting results. Now with our modern 10 millimeter, it did scoot down and hit this and bounce back up. I'm going to leave it at that because generally when we get this far, most of our energy is expelled, and it would probably get to that point anyway. We're looking at that bullet's right at about 20.5 inches. It's coming out the bottom, sitting there on the block. Now our classic 10 millimeter did a bit better. It did not over penetrate even after going through that fiberboard. And we got a penetration of about 18 inches, sucked back a little bit, but perfectly right where we want it to be. So, you know, that's kind of like that era. That's what they're looking for, and that's exactly what they got. Interesting thing with our 357 mag is it did as much damage with our MDF as it did without in both these shots. And we went to the same penetration, almost exactly the same. We're at like 20.5 inches with our 357 with both our no MDF and MDF. So that 357 is definitely consistent there. But what I'm seeing with our Silvertips is there's a little bit different performance there with our old versus our new. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to do 75 yards. People often ask why that. I'll explain when I get back there, but I'm going to fire a few rounds from that distance. All right, 75 yards from my target there. I get a lot of people more or less screaming, all caps, about why am I shooting self-defense training from 75 yards? I'm never going to need that. And the point I want to make is I never said that I was training from 75 yards for defensive shooting. The reason why I often do this is because if I feel an ammo is consistent, I feel like it would be pretty easy to hit at that distance. And it kind of shows me a consistency of how I feel about the ammo, or how reliable it is for its accuracy, how confident I am in that ammo. So if I can easily hit from 75 yards, I feel like it's consistent enough ammo for me to be a lot more accurate at close range. So, you know, when I do 25 yards often, it's easy to hit every single time. 50 yards is easy to hit every single time. From 75 yards, not so much. So if I start missing, I kind of question that ammo. So I'm gonna do our 10 millimeter first. First two rounds are gonna be our classic 1992 ammo, and then after that's going to be modern ammo. So I'll try to do the best I can with these, as if my life was on the line, just to kind of see, you know, what I can do with these. So Here's our 10 millimeter, one of our classic rounds here. Shot high for me. Aim a little bit lower. Yeah, looks like it hit a little bit to the left. So now these are our modern rounds, the rest of these. Same thing, I'm gonna aim a little bit lower. So with those, that little bit less of power that those modern ones had, actually I aimed lower. It was like they were hitting higher at a distance than the classic ones, and I think that's sometimes you see that phenomenon where you might just get a little bit muzzle rise, you know, before the bullet leaves. But with something that's more powerful, faster, sometimes it leaves just that split second sooner. So it's gonna print a little bit different. So yeah, our modern ones were definitely hitting higher. So now with our 357 mag, I brought 2 rounds out. I'll try one double action, I'll try one single action. I think the same phenomenon is going to happen with this because it's heavy and it's not super fast. So I'm going to aim at the base of the target. So there's a double action shot, see if I can make a hit. Yeah, we hit, looks like from what I can see, it hit really high. I aimed at the very base, like touching the base. So single action, I'll do the same thing. I'll aim just right below the target a little bit by about 6 inches. Oh, pulled it a little bit to the left. And that's part of, you know, a lot of people wonder why I shoot double action a lot and I shoot it better, is because when I'm pulling that trigger and I got that stabilization going on, it actually causes the revolver to get very, very stable. But when I don't have that good squeeze going on and I go single action, I'm not squeezing as hard, so we're seeing a little bit of this. And boom. But double action, I'm squeezing it harder. It's staying more stable. So that's what you get today with that. Interesting test, to say the least here. Our 357 mag, you know, when we look at that, it kind of harkens to a day where they're looking for something a little bit different. They're looking for something for law enforcement, something that's going to expand, something that's going to go through harder barriers and stuff like that. And really the solution for the day was, well, let's keep it powerful but make it heavier so it has more momentum. And then it'll truck through something. It'll go right through a car door or a windshield and won't deflect up and around. It hits a windshield, it's got that mass, it's going to keep going through. So, you know, that's what they're looking at in the day. And nowadays we got stuff like Hornady Critical Duty and stuff like that, if we're looking at 357, where you have a harder lead core. It doesn't have to be super heavy. We have it designed to expand out, but also have that hard lead core, so when it hits something, it's not going to deflect around. We can kind of work around that stuff. But back in the day, in the early 90s, you know, it's a little bit different scenario going on, what they're looking for in law enforcement, and they were still using revolvers, a lot of them. Their 10 millimeter, you know, yeah, it's pretty similar. It's pretty similar performance. It doesn't look like they changed it that much. They just had a little bit more power to them back in the day. So that's what you get with this test today. So interesting, to say the least. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.